Okay. Hello, what grow frums? I decided to commit something again as much as possible to Git, so that only that part related to the push constant is left, which I did yesterday and was wrong. Yeah, this is about push constants. Yeah, I guess I should not commit this yet. It's not committed yet. Oh, okay, hi. No, okay. And then there's also push constant ranges. I'm really going to say no to everything. I guess I do. Let's first commit everything that just has absolutely nothing to do with push constant. So this is no. Push constant, push constant. There's a push constant range compare deleted and replaced with a characteristic range bridge. FlatCreateInfo, I guess that's also a no. PipelineFactory. Yeah, well, it is related to the push constant. Okay, I'll say no. And more push constant. Copy push constant ranges. Also no. Man, is there anything that is not related to push constants? Access or constantly above is deleted, also push constants. Create shader stage create info. Push back, pipeline shader stage create info. Guess that's a yes. And I don't know this one. Probably a no. How can I skip it? Leave this hunk undecided. So it's a J. Shader stage create info. Well, let's say yes then. Is add shader stage register add shader stage with. That's a yes. And then it's the same hunk again. Yeah, the last one. I guess it was needed to call this, so that's a yes as well then. No, that goes to the next file. Okay. characteristic range filled. Right, I was rewriting this stuff. So this is a yes, I need to commit this. It's not really something to do with the push constant. Oh, that's a lot. There's split. Well, the same thing actually, so yes. Oh, but this is talking about push constant ranges. Yeah, I think I knew I should commit lower 3, but not the first 2. So I do an edit, and I'll just delete these 2 lines. Commit this, and then same thing. So that's a yes. And a yes. And I guess a yes. Holy moly, a lot, but it's still a yes. Check anyway. Da, 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 da. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Set need signals, register with the FlatCreateInfo. I'm gonna say yes. Yeah, I should eat. Should be a short stream because it's actually my dinner time. Needs signals, yes. It's compiled initialized. Using that. Okay, yes. Is add shadow state register. What I did that implemented by add push constant. So split. Now this is a yes and this is a no. Set need signals, yes. No. Nobody knows. EJ. Using sorted push constant ranges. Well, that's again definitely, well, push constant related. So I'm going to say no. This is also push constant related, so I'm going to say no. And now you get a whole lot. Add push constant ranges was removed here, replaced with get sorted push constant ranges. And more push constant ranges stuff here. More empty reserve. Copy. No. No then. And then these, well, I guess no. PipelineFactory copy, okay, and then range, characteristic range, I'm going to split. Well, this is the copy push constant, and this is a register with. I'm going to say yes. The number of running characters. Yeah, okay, this is just printing something. That was debugging for something that should have been fixed by now. So maybe just don't want this at all anymore. So I'm going to say no because I don't want it in the end. But it's also not related to push constants. The number of characteristic tasks that we need, so that's yes. And here we have, yep, that's also a good edit. The number of running characteristic task size, okay. Yeah. This is a yes, right? Definitely. Yes. Number of running characteristic tasks is, so before I just have the number of tasks that I wanted to wait for was always equal to the number of characteristic tasks. But now I set that number equal to all the tasks that actually do pre-processing. And I only send the do pre-process signal to those. But anyway, that's a yes then. And here we do the same thing, except that now we are talking about push constants here. Let's do a split. I'm gonna say no here. So that's also related to the previous line, so that's also a no. And then this is again the number of characteristics is actually equal to the one that do compile. So that's a yes. And this is again related to compiling, so that also a yes. And here I have added two things. Can I split that? Cannot split it. Oh, it'll edit it. Pretty sure I'll want the first one, but not the second one. And that was all. So now we have added everything that is not to do with push constant, so I want to commit that. Commit. Yeah, that's just, I don't know, work in progress. Old branch brain. Brain is in still the open brain surgery that I'm performing since a while on this code. And then the diff that is left has to do with purely with the push constant changes, and I wasn't happy with that at the end of the stream yesterday. But at the very least, it should be the case that if I try to compile it after removing this, and I probably should remove this away, because I don't know, it's also push constant related. And I'm going to do git stash to delete everything that we see here now, all those differences. So now I do a git diff, everything is empty. I run configure again to get rid of this .cxx, which is now not ending on .cxx anymore. And I should be able to compile it. Well, that's nice. It compiles. Okay, if now I run it, then the error should be related to push constants. So I'm going to run it. I think it is a validation error, so I'll just run it in the debugger. Hello, CURL. You're here also just to say hi. Okay, we do have a validation error about push constants. So yeah, so far predicted. So I think I'm on the right track. And then let's have a look at what I just renamed. So let's rename it back. And then have a look at what that was. Okay, that is the copy push constant ranges. So the add push constant class is taking care of the push constants, the data that is needed to create a pipeline related to push constants. That data is apparently put into this vector here. And then this function is called after this class is done with constructing the data. It's actually a set, this. I think it's standard set. Okay, most definitely have to make C tags again. There, it's a set. The set is then passed to the PipelineFactory, and the PipelineFactory owns the FlatCreateInfo. See the description of today below the video. The FlatCreateInfo object is owned by the PipelineFactory and contains all the data that is required for the PipelineFactory to create one pipeline. So we copy the data related to push constants to the FlatCreateInfo at this point, and then if the FlatCreateInfo contains all the data that is required, then we can use that to create a pipeline. Now, what was wrong with this? What is wrong is that my design is that I have a certain characteristic. A pipeline can have multiple characteristics, and they can be a range. Each characteristic can be a range. That is, it has a fill index, whatever that is, some integer starting at 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. Each characteristic gets a chance to fill or refill whatever it wants to change to the FlatCreateInfo for the next pipeline. So it runs over a whole range. So if a characteristic is a range, then it gets a chance to fill some data in the FlatCreateInfo for index fill index 0, and then for fill index 1, and then for fill index 2. But maybe that characteristic wants to, fill some data, some part of the FlatCreateInfo, and then after that only change a tiny little bit of it as function of the fill index while it runs over the range. For example, it could add a push constant, but it is not interested to change the push constant when the fill index is being changed. So what I really want is that such a characteristic gets a chance to add a push constant and do its thing, as in generating this set, and then for the next of the fill index values, just not touch it anymore. Just leave it as it was without changing it. The way I coded it now, that is not possible. I have to clear this vector, or well, whatever you copy it to, and then copy it again and again. Now the only way to do it right is by leaving the data in the add push constant, that is a base class of the characteristic. So then it is a part of the characteristic object, and that is the case for this thing. But if I don't touch it anymore, then still we have to copy it to the FlatCreateInfo. While my original design was that I have a vector that I register with the FlatCreateInfo, and then I fill that vector, and I don't have to do anything anymore. The FlatCreateInfo knows that it needs to use that vector, and if the next fill index is I just don't change that vector, then the FlatCreateInfo will keep reusing that vector with its contents. That was the original design, and I think I should keep that in here. While this is a set, and the FlatCreateInfo cannot work with sets. So yeah, I didn't register at all with the FlatCreateInfo. Worse, I removed it. The whole thing, the whole support. In short, I don't think that we are going to need this function anymore. So I'm going to move it away again. I mean, I'll won't delete it yet, because you never know. Don't like to redo stuff. But I'm going to move it away again, as in not used. Let's run configure again, so that we won't try to compile a file that isn't there. And I'm going to pop the stash, so I get all the changes that I made. And now I can look at it again, and then see where I made the changes that now I'm not happy with. And in particular, where I deleted from the FlatCreateInfo object the stuff that is related to the push constant. So I think I have to search for FlatCreate here. File, there must be a file here, the FlatCreateInfo header. I deleted this. So the actual support that the FlatCreateInfo object has is by keeping a vector of vector pointers. There's a pointer to a constant vector. That's what it can deal with. So this should stay, and I should register a vector that is a member of a characteristic by adding a pointer to that vector to this vector. And then I can leave it alone. Now the problem was, the reason that we got a validation error is because that vector 1 didn't exist and 2 wasn't registered with the FlatCreateInfo. And then the changes that I made, let's try to just go over all the changes. This was commented out. Here the vector is registered with FlatCreateInfo by calling this function. As you can see, a pointer to the vector is added to the FlatCreateInfo. I want to keep that, But I don't not want to do it anymore from here, because this is the well, this is a test application. This is user code, as it were. It's not part of the Vulkan engine. I want the Vulkan engine itself to be responsible for keeping this vector and adding it. And the reason that that now it's possible is because I can make this vector an element of the base class of this characteristic, namely the add push constant base class. So the add push constant base class must have this vector, and it must be responsible for registering it with the FlatCreateInfo. That's how it should work. So once that works, I can indeed remove this commented out thing, because now then the base class is taking care of it, and we don't have to do that in the user code. Might as well replace the commented out line by just nothing, because it's no longer necessary. It is being done by the base class. Okay, what is this change? Doesn't seem like a big change. Sorted push constant ranges, which are already a vector, are being passed to the function realize pipeline layout, whatever that does. But now that means that it is already a merged vector. So say we have multiple characteristics that add push constant ranges. That means then multiple characteristics register a pointer to their vector with push constant ranges with the FlatCreateInfo. And then at some point, FlatCreateInfo merges all those vectors into one vector, makes sure it is sorted in the right order, and that then is passed to this function. And the only thing that I changed here is that what I pass is a read access type. So I make it thread safe, but for the rest there's hardly any difference. Now, I'm not sure if this thread safeness is really required, because we can only even create this thing after all the characteristics are done. They register, they fill it, and then only when they are done I can merge. So the whole merging into the new vector, which is being passed here, is only done by a single thread. And I don't think any locking is required. So the only reason that I was locking it here is because I stopped supporting merging. We had only one vector, and no longer a bunch of vectors that had to be merged. And that one vector could have been accessed by multiple characteristics at the same time, apparently. Therefore, it had to be protected with a mutex. And therefore, I have to lock it also at the end. Because, well, it is protected by a mutex. I cannot even access it anymore without locking a mutex. So that's why it also automatically requires a read access type, const read access type here. But yeah, well, you don't really need this anymore, I think, because I want to go back to a newly merged vector, the way that the FlatCreateInfo was designed. So I don't need this anymore, right? So you know, I want this. I do not want this anymore. This is just a change of the debug output, because now we get something that ends on _r instead of just that. Here we have the same thing. We had this, and now we have to write that to get the exact same thing. And here we have, again, I mean, just star, blah, 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 underscore r is the exact same vector. So this whole file can be restored to what it was. I don't want to keep any of these changes. Maybe we should do that immediately so that the git diff becomes smaller. I'm going to do the git restore trick. Actually, let's do everything. Maybe this is going pretty slow, but then I'll do one hunk at a time. So I do git commit, no, sorry, add, of course, git add, minus p as it were, so we can look at it, but we begin with one thing at a time. This happens to be in the same directory, so I can just add a p. Oh, I see this, and I said, yes, I want that. Okay. And I can commit it as well. Let's commit everything immediately. So that's just that one thing. So pip, that's very tiny commit. And then the next thing was, well, I want to restore it, so as in completely throw it away. I'm still going to do the p thing, even though it's already decided that there is literally nothing that we want to keep here. That would be this file. Well, we are here. Dot slash vulkan. Oops. So okay, so I want to completely go back. Yes, restore this and restore this and restore this. And that was all of that file. So I can go back to the git diff. Okay, this is logical device.h. Well, either we need this or we don't. These are just types. And then here we see the declaration of the realized pipe layout. So I just threw that away. So yeah, and then we get the next file. So let's throw this one away as well then. Logical device.h. And then, well, then we also don't need this. This type is just used there, but we don't need it anymore. So we can do the restore trick on now on the header, and I'm going to say, yes, everything can be thrown away. Go back to git diff. Okay, the add push constant.h. Well, headers are always difficult to decide. For declaration as well. Okay, the add push constant got added a virtual base class so that it can communicate with the characteristic range. That might or might not be interesting. I don't know yet also. Now this we want, it was indeed not used. I mean, it compiled while it was commented out. But I think we need this, and I need to uncomment it, because this is that vector that we are going to register. See, so this is a base class of one of the characteristics, and it's going to fill this vector and then and register it, and then for the next fill index it might just not touch it, so it's the same, or it might change it, whatever it wants to do. What a bear? Why? Are you sure? You need to have, well, you're still subscribed, I guess, and you have notifications on. Well, it's nasty of YouTube. Please fix it. I don't think it can hardly be a real bug, can it? If you are subscribed and you have notifications on, then how on earth can they make it not to tell you? That would be really serious. Bad of them. Not happy to hear that, Bear. I can also do an add everyone in Discord, but yeah, might annoy people. Usually, a message to everyone on Discord is not appreciated. Certainly not if people have already subscribed and notifications on. They get a double. I would like if you could find out what is going on or what is wrong. In the meantime, I'll continue here anyway. This is yeah, I think we need this. I think pretty sure of it. Okay, this is just a type def that we got from the FlatCreateInfo. And I'm pretty sure I just removed that, right? So this does not exist anymore. So I just want to keep my set. Because before we were passing the standard set to the FlatCreateInfo to merge it. But I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm just going to give it a pointer to this vector. So we don't need this. And then this copy, I'll already remove that. We didn't want that anymore. Yeah, this function converts my set. It was a set to a vector, and we have to do that. But when? So we have to do that. It seems to me that we only have to do this when the sorted push constant ranges has changed during the current fill index. And then we should do that at the end of well, the preprocess stage of this characteristic. And that's kind of difficult. Especially the last part, how to figure out when that happens. I think that was in, let's say, I think in the characteristic range class, so right here, next file. Yeah, this basically is this point here. So after the characteristic has been processed, we get here. And then we say, if this is an add push constant, then now we can copy sorted push constant ranges to push constant ranges. That's a strange comment because I removed that. Copy push constant ranges. Is that copying to M push constant ranges? I don't think so. No, that was not, was it? Let's look, this function is then it's calling a virtual function, which is then overridden in the add push constant ranges. Which is here, I guess. This is, let's see what file it is. FlatCreateInfo. FlatCreateInfo, so that's not the one I want, not yet anyway. PipelineFactory also has one. Where's my add push constant ranges? PipelineFactory. Oh, that is this? No. That is this? No. That is this. Yeah. First file, add push constant. As an override, copy push constant ranges, and that was that file that I now renamed to .away, and it is an override from the characteristic range bridge. So apparently I do need that as a new base class then in order to get here. But the way it was implemented wasn't really what we need or want. Let's call it always. Let's call it always. So I'm going to keep this call. But it's not really required to do anything when nothing changed, when this wasn't changed. So I need a new boolean. I need my my file back. Let's see, move. So move away back to this. And again configure before I forget it. And then edit it. See what it did was just pass it on to the PipelineFactory. But that's no longer what I want to do. I want to do what the comment said, namely make the copy. This is inside add push constant. So I want to copy this to only way I do it. Oh wait, we can just use standard copy, of course. Standard copy, and then so the vector is called. Let's do a few things on. Now let me just edit this file, I guess. No, I don't. Let's delete it. I need a restore. Get restore minus p for that file. Edit this. Whoops, I cannot edit it. Editing, restoring stuff is very difficult. If I restore this, and I have that one, but I don't have this. I'm gonna need this as well, so I'll have to add that back manually then. So let's restore it. I don't know about that one. Let's show you split. And then just simply no. And no, because I want to keep the characteristic range bridge. And yes, because I want to have my mpush constant ranges back. I want to change this back as well, I think, because nobody needs to know about the set. Certainly not FlatCreateInfo. So do yes, restore that. And to copy push, I did keep. So I do not want to restore this, I want to keep it. And this is a removal of push constant ranges. I think that we can indeed remove that. So I do not want to restore it. Now maybe I should immediately follow that with an add to clean up stuff that I want to keep. So AS split this again. I don't know about this one. I want to keep that, right? And I want to keep this one. And I want to remove that one. That's it. And then I can do again a git commit bib. I have something in my mouse buffer. What was it? And include. I had to add that back to some file. I don't know which file anymore. Probably the one that we lost. Did this one? Suppose so. VI. No, because we added this. Okay. Added this one back, but it should really be back. And then we have a copy thing somewhere, and I want to actually copy it into that. Okay. Copy push constant ranges. So that should be copying the set into the vector. Still should have my set. Oh, that's down there. Just copy everything. Copy it, and then we go to here, paste it. So I want to copy the set into the vector. Well, that should then just work like that. Yeah. Right. And then we need a few headers. Copy, I don't know, copy algorithm. And the back inserter is the iterator. I don't know. I think I still have copy open even. Back inserter was iterator, yeah. Did this before. Standard copy is algorithm. Okay. Go back to the div. See how big the div now is. Still pretty big. Okay, now the copy push constant ranges should vanish from the pipeline factory, so we can start at the bottom. This one has to go, it's no longer used. So let me remove that and then at the same time have a look at PipelineFactory.cxx. Yeah, that's 0. This one can go. And that, by the way, is calling FlatCreateInfo copy push constant ranges, which then of course is also no longer necessary. So I think I can do a get restore -p everything, and then just search for the copy thing. This we want to keep. That's calling the copy push constant ranges on the add push constant. This is then what it calls. This is the virtual function of the base class, virtual base class. So we want to keep that one. And this is FlatCreateInfo. That no longer needs to know anything about this. So yeah, we want to restore this one. And we want to restore this, I guess. Yeah, because I want to keep the vector of vector pointers. That was the point. So this definitely must be restored. That's a big hunk. So I want to get rid of this, I think. And this is still inside FlatCreateInfo class. I want to restore my add. Someone has to add the vector pointer. And this call here, get sorted push constant ranges. Yeah, well. Merging is unfortunately not supported, it says. And I think we do need to support that. But I think the old code is better than the new code. Here's my standard copy. It's doing the same thing. So let's just restore this to the old code. And the PipelineFactory adds this, but I don't want it anymore. So let's restore this to not adding it. And what is this? Yeah, I don't want to see this debug output anymore, so I can just restore it. And here we have so here we did call the get sorted push constant ranges, which then is supposed to do the merge. And I guess that's the right place to do it. And then we have this, which is then passed to realize pipeline layout, which you already changed to just simply take that. So we do indeed want to restore this. This is in the pipeline factory, so this one was removed, restore it, and that was all. So now the git diff should be pretty small, a lot small. So yes, I want to add this. I'm not sure about the pipeline factory at the moment. We want to add this. We want to add this. And that is a characteristic bridge. So we do want to add this. That's all, really. I guess we also want to add this. I'm gonna remove the first one because I don't know. I don't think we need pipeline factory really as a header, as a full header. I already have a forward declaration. Oh wait, I do need a forward declaration. Well, the header was included. We do need that because it's used here. So everything should be added, I think. Git commit, not commit, let's just add everything. Still decide one by one. I think yes, because this is add push constant, which is now derived from that. And we use that indeed as an argument, pipeline pointer. Yes, we wanted to add this back. Yes, we're going to call this function. I still have to fix this function, though. But I decided to always call it. So after any characteristic is finished preprocessing, we call the copy push constant ranges. And then that is, well, this is then what it calls, basically, of the as a virtual function. And then I'm not sure we need this. We don't need this. This is FlatCreateInfo. No, we don't need this. And I doubt we need this. I don't think we need either of those. Git diff. Can do a git restore minus p again then and say yes and yes. And now the diff is empty. We have still something cached. And I do want to commit all of that. Git commit whip. And then I still have to fix that one at push constant cxx. I'm now blindly copying it every time. But well, no, could do that, but the plan was to only do it when it changed. It was changed since the last. time we copied it. Okay, so I'm going to do if, then we copy it. And that if is, sorted push constant ranges changed. But you don't have to add. Let's add it close to the sorted push constant ranges. Why not? Then it would be here. And then initially, I'm just going to set it to true. So the first time we always copy it. But on the other hand, now we created as empty. Why would I copy anything? I think both are empty in the beginning. This is empty and that is empty. So we don't change this, then we are already done. So let's set it to false. Nothing needs to be copied rather. Well, then I have to set it to true as soon as I make a change. And I guess that's here. This function is being called and we change it. And it's a private set. Private, so nobody can touch it except this class. That means that it's either changed here or changed here, and this is not changing it. It's just copying it. To, yeah, it's changed. And then, of course, after we copy it, we set it to false, so we don't copy it again. The next time, unless it was changed again. Something like that. Okay, now let's see if it compiles. It's not compiling. In member function, insert push constant range, no match operator, assignment, set and bool. Okay, I used the wrong thing. Changed. Chiba, thank you. It's a delay maybe between the chat and the video. And John Terra asks, can you give basic advice, basic stuff about when to use standard optional or using standard unique pointer? I never use standard optional, so I cannot give any advice about that. And a unique pointer is simply, let's say, for non-copyable objects. If you have an object that you don't want to have a copy, don't want to make copies of. Let's say it represents something, some resource that you literally have just one of. But it is a big thing. Then you could pass a standard unique pointer to it around. I'm using standard unique pointers for resources that I want to be destructed automatically as soon as the last unique pointer is destructed, but that are not copyable. So you just pass this, you pass the unique pointer around by moving as well. Kom je? I don't know. Assignment of member function is in read-only object. Yeah, copy doesn't really sound const, does it? It used to be const because we were just delegating it to another class. But now it's definitely no longer const. So I have to change that in the base class as well because it is a wordle function. Like I said, more often I abuse const for meaning that it is safe for concurrent access. And I take that very far. So the idea is that if you only read, it's no problem that many threads at the same time do that, aka concurrent read access. That's okay. And then I took it a step further, and I think if I have a function, if I have a member function, that is okay to be concurrently accessed, even if it changes something, then I make it const. So let's say you do write in it, but what you write is mutex protected. So two threads at the same time call my const member function. That's okay, even if they write something, as long as they lock a mutex before they do so. And I even take it a step further. If, say, I know that the way my code works, a certain, let's say, a vector is accessed concurrently at some point, but later on I know that it is no longer accessed concurrently. And that is exactly the case in this case. What happens is that the standard set that I fill with data might be filled concurrently. Let's say, I don't think it is the case in this case, but let's say this standard set would be filled concurrently by multiple threads. Then I would need a mutex, but only after all threads are done filling my standard set, I'm going to copy it from the set to the vector. So at that point, it is virtually single thread, which means that the standard vector does not need a mutex. And it is now, at that point, it is thread safe between very fat quotes, because I know it is never called concurrently by multiple threads. So, yeah, sometimes I just make it const, and I would make that vector then mutable, so that I can write to it, even from a const member function. It's a kind of a don't try this at home stuff, but if you know what you're doing, that it works pretty good for me. Anyway, in this case, you just remove the const, because I didn't really see a reason. It's a feeling, intuition. I don't know. Just sometimes you keep it. Sometimes I make it keep it constant, add a mutable, and sometimes I add a mutex. I mean, yeah. Will your engine have RTX? I guess so. I'm guessing that RTX stands for ray tracing. Yeah, I'm going to need that, but have RTX is a bit vague to me. You have to understand that I have no background at all in graphics, 3D graphics, so I don't know what exactly the support is that would be required. But I do know that what I want is if I have 3D objects in my scene and I have my mouse somewhere and I click, then I want to know which object my mouse is on. And I think I'm going to need a ray, at least one ray, at least for that point to know what my mouse will hit. I think that real-time ray tracing is more like a lot of rays, right? I have no experience with that, so maybe I shouldn't. Put too much time into that, because I already, I'm just one guy working on this. You can also do too much. So I have no real plans yet to support ray tracing at full scale. Well, join my project and you can convince me to add it, I suppose. Segmentation fault while compiling, or what is it? Validation errors. Still push constant validation errors. Scrolling up to see if there's another validation error. I don't think so. Now that looks very, very much like the same validation error. So whatever I did, it didn't solve the problem. Let me see if I can understand why without looking at the code. Yeah, I don't understand it. The reason is that I'm not calling add. So, this is still there. Well, so I have this add push constant clause, which has this vector, but I never registered it with the FlatCreateInfo. We have to do that. What is a good point to do that? It can be done any moment. I would even say in the constructor, but we need access to the FlatCreateInfo. And I think that from here, from this class, the only way to access the FlatCreateInfo, which is a member of the PipelineFactory, is through the characteristic range bridge. That is another base class is the characteristic range, and that is virtually derived from characteristic range bridge. So we can call a member function on this base class, which is then a virtual member function, which is then implemented by the characteristic range. And the characteristic range has a pointer to the PipelineFactory, which owns the FlatCreateInfo. However, that means that we make use of the virtual tables like crazy. Virtual base class, virtual function implemented by another base class of a derived class that must be fully constructed. So we definitely cannot do that in the constructor of add push constant itself. We have to do it later. But we can do it pretty much immediately after construction, which would be in add characteristic. So I just look for that function, add characteristic. too vague. Let me just go to one of these. So here this is the user code, and it's adding 3 characteristics to the PipelineFactory. 1, 2, 3. Well, or not. It could also be adding 2, depending on what this is. But okay, I can put my cursor on add characteristic and then jump to it. And then there we are. This is where it is created. So immediately after this creation, all the virtual tables are set, and then you can do whatever you want with it. Set needs signals is one of them, or we can do another one which says yeah, well, something, but I'm not happy with that because I'm pretty sure that there is we have another base class, which is then also a base class of characteristic, right? Most specifically, not the base pipeline characteristic, but this one, the vertex pipeline characteristic range, is derived from add vertex shader. And that is derived from add shader stage. And that also wants to do a registration. And how did I do that? Have I got? This one. Add register add shader stage with. So I think that the point where this is being called, I might as well call in register add push constant with, and then do it in the same way as we do it here. And you see that calls add to FlatCreateInfo, and then it adds whatever it owns. This is a vector that also had to be registered with the FlatCreateInfo. Definitely the way to go. So let's have a look. I did this before, by the way. Git, GPS. I did it before. I undid it. I'm going to redo it. In Dutch, we call that wispelturig, but I'm not sure that is actually what's going on here. Register add push constant with. Now it doesn't really matter, but I'm still curious because I forgot it. When is this being called? From add characteristic itself. It actually makes sense because the owner must be set. The owner is the PipelineFactory. This is the PipelineFactory object. So this pointer is the PipelineFactory. And that's what we are using. We're calling something on the PipelineFactory. So even where I almost added it was wrong, because at that moment it doesn't know its owner or the PipelineFactory yet. So this is the correct place to do it. And then immediately after we know the owner, the characteristic range knows its owner. And then we're going to call from here add push constant with. And now we are inside class characteristic range. So that then goes through the characteristic range bridge. So I have to add now to the characteristic range bridge the function add push constant with, and I give bet that this one takes the same route. So we can go here, and then we see that it is here in the bridge. And this one is implemented by add shader stage, and this one is implemented by add push constant. So we can add it here. Well, let's just copy it. Register add push constant width. That then will be called, doesn't do anything, but we can now override it in the add push constant. Also, the copy push constant ranges is overridden here, and we can follow that, I guess. But in the end, I'm going to have to add this. So let's make a copy of here, and then just jump to that function. And there it is. Well, might as well add it here, I guess, because it's a virtual function, so no inlining will happen, I suppose. Yeah. So let's add it here. But I also have to add it to the base class. So let's do that first. Below copy, sorry, not the class itself, the declaration. So we have a copy push something. Put it here, and then that's final implementation. Looks very much the same. You just pass the PipelineFactory, and then it can do its thing. Okay, what went wrong? I'm in a header now. What's following this? Yeah, here I have to implement this thing. Add push constant. Right. So now we're going to register ourselves. This is the push constant with the FlatCreateInfo. That is part of the PipelineFactory, but the PipelineFactory has our bags. It has an add, not add. Wait, now I forgot what it was. I think add though. Add something. I thought add something, but it was a longer name. There was a template. I'm gonna look for a template. Add to it is one. Add to FlatCreateInfo. And then when you just pass the pointer to our vector. And our vector was, as if I would know that. So I'm going to jump to our class, somewhere at the top. This is the vector. And now we register the pointer to that vector. So this call to add was missing. And now I added it, so this should work. Ding, 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 make. Yeah, Raphael, 29 years is not too old. It is too old for companies apparently, but as a hobby, I started. I'm doing since I started C++ when I was 30. My brain was already, extremely used to programming. I've been really intensively programming my whole teenage period. Was like the hobby. Well, I did electronics as well. I had two very fanatic hobbies, electronics and programming. But since I was 12, I've been programming on pretty much. But I started learning C++ when I was 30. And now I'm 58 and I'm still picking up Vulkan, more or less. So you have to believe in yourself. It does get slower, however. And I put in a lot of time. Like, I do nothing else. At some point I had a repetitive stress injury and I could not sit behind my computer anymore for a year or so. After that, I really had problems picking up coding again. But if you program every day for hours and hours, then your brain is not too old to keep those neurons active, as it were. I think if at my age I would stop doing this every day, then after 1 or 2 years I would not be able anymore. I really have to keep it alive. Keep working. And there's a shitload that I cannot do anymore. I can still code, but don't ask me to do things that I don't do, because then I really feel old. I forget things like crazy. Like you could say it's more absent-minded, but like last Thursday I filled my washing machine with wash. Started it, and I forgot it. Only today I remember that I had wash in it. So it is in the washing machine for 3 days almost. Yeah. I left it in the washing machine for 3 days. I don't know. Is that just absent-minded or a bad memory? I don't know. Talking about forgetting it, now it's in the drying machine. I should take it out. And I should go cook. I think I should stop the stream. And go do the stuff that has to be done. Wouldn't it be nice to have a partner, a cute partner, of course, who gives me neck massages and cuddles while I'm coding, and does the cooking for me, and the washing. Yeah, one can dream. Okay, what was I doing? Let's run it. Still sec fault. Validation error. A different validation error. I think we have a different validation error. It basically means that now the push constants have been fixed. Well, fixed, I mean. Might be fixed. Let's put it that way. Yeah, the first validation error is now complaining about vertex shader or something. Location 0 not provided, which is read the description, the same thing. Okay, I'm going to stop the stream. Everybody scroll down below the video and then you'll see description. Starts with day 4 of fixing bugs. And then in that paragraph it says, the current bugs are all related to the fact that data required to generate a pipeline isn't available to the FlatCreateInfo object. So we just passed the push constant information to the FlatCreateInfo, but there's a load missing still, like all the rest. Okay, so this can now be removed because it basically is handled. And I think it's now complaining about vertex, either this or that one. and only after we did all three, and this one, but that's okay, that's the same. We're probably going to handle that at the same point. Then we have a chance again that's going to draw something. I mean, until we fixed all this, it's not going to create a pipeline. And there are more fix me's here. In fact, this one can be deleted as well now, I think. Yeah, this is the actual, that above here was the registration. On hey, I'm going to fill the push constant vector, and here we are actually filling it. Both are now being taken care of. So this one looks a lot like it. We can probably hijack the changes that we just made, because it's going to be very much the same. So we have a registration of some vector here and then filling it here. And I think that's the next one that I'm going to do, simply because it was at the same place as the push constant. Okay, but first I'm going to cook and eat and probably watch a movie. So it's going to take a few hours before I'm back. So everyone, I'm starting now, and I will keep doing that the whole week, telling the people, so don't be annoyed by the fact that I'm going to do this every day. I just want the people to be aware that the first Christmas day in the evening, 1800 hours UTC, I'm going to do a very exciting Christmas stream with Christmas music. You have to buy hot chocolate milk yourself, and I'm going to do something that is impossible, namely prove the Collett's conjecture. Well, give it a try. Now, given that no mathematician in the whole world has been able to do it in the last 100 years, and people are being warned not to start with it, because you make yourself a fool if you even try. Like your mathematics career is ruined if you admit that you work on that problem, because mathematics is not ready for this. You know, it's way too difficult. So I'm going to fail. But I have done things that I was the first of in the world. So why not? I'm not 100% convinced that I cannot do this. Not 100%. I'm typing it in chat, so hang on. December, Sunday. Okay, there it is. Please, if you intend to join, be on time, because if I start at 1800 UTC and you're 5 minutes late, then maybe you cannot follow it anymore. I will begin with explaining basics, though, so if you already know that, okay. Know that it is very simple mathematics: addition, multiplication, subtraction, division. That's about it. That's all that we will use. And some abbreviations. And all the abbreviations I will explain. So even if you're 13 years old and you know how to multiply, you will be able to follow it. Okay? I promise. But I am going to explain a few things. I will need to use binomial. I'll explain what that is. Factorial, I will explain what that is. And I will do a lot of modular arithmetic. I will definitely explain what that is. It's not difficult, really. So if you know these things, you can dream binomials and modular arithmetic. You can be 15 minutes late. That's otherwise I would not recommend that. Okay, I'll see you later tonight, I think, and then we'll continue with this. I'm going to cook now first.